Welcome back then folks to day 4 of Special Projects pack number 16, and for those who are in the members section on the channel, this will of course be familiar because earlier on today we did, as I did on Tuesday as well for the Sparko Evo, a Forza version of this same build in Forza Horizon 5, and sometimes I like to do those Forza tie-ins as well, usually in the members section. So this time, for Gran Turismo players, you won't necessarily recognise the car. But for those who have played Forza as well in the past, particularly Forza 1 and 2, you'll recognise cars like this. The Toyota Supra, it was one of those like Forza equivalents to like a Mainz Evo or a HPA Golf, you know, one of those aftermarket pre-tuned models that appears in the game. And the Toyota Supra was one of the probably most memorable cars that you could win back then. It was pretty easy to get, if I recall correctly, and quite a useful car. A 375 horsepower old school Supra. Now, that version had a 2-litre engine rather than the 3-litre, so of course you can't really change that in the game in terms of having that lower end Supra engine, but, you know, we work with what we've got. As far as the livery, of course, that is in the description. I've made, incidentally, 2 changes over what the player did, because only a couple of people had done this livery anyway. So what I've changed is I removed the side skirts, because the side skirts look a little bit too big, in my opinion, for this one to look accurate to the car. And the second thing is I put it on rotiform wheels instead of the ones which they'd fitted. Because, again, the Supra in Forza 2 has essentially standard Supra wheels. They're just a bit bigger, so it's got those big chunky 5-spokes, so that's why I've gone for the rotiforms, because they look at least a little bit more accurate to those. But that's up to you in terms of what you do or don't want to change. You don't need your sports silencer there. I fitted it because I was fitting out a couple of different exhausts to see which would look good, sound good, and, you know, get the right amount of power, so you don't need to bother with that one. We've got the sports brake pads. As far as tyres, I've upgraded it from the comforts to sports hards. For the club sports section, we've got the sports clutch, the sports discs as well. You don't need the power restrictor or the ballast, funnily enough, for this one. As far as the semi-racing stuff, we've got the silencer, or the semi-racing silencer I should say, the low RPM turbo, the fully customised diff, and the height adjustable sports suspension. For the racing stuff, if we go all the way down, there's nothing there. Extreme section, nothing again. And for the ultimate section, nothing there either. So, pretty simple build, as a lot of them have been this week. And of course, with an aftermarket build that is replicating an older game, sometimes it can be a bit up in the air as to what was or wasn't done to the car. And in the case of Forza 2, that was kind of the case. Because for a lot of the vehicles, they don't have the same kind of in-depth breakdown that Gran Turismo has, you know, telling you, oh, this car had this particular thing done or that particular thing done. In Forza, you don't get told that necessarily quite as much, if at all. So, as far as the build, it's 540 points, as you can see. As you would assume, I am using Forza 2 as the reference on the weight and the power. So as far as the tyres, the sports hards are fitted. For the height adjustable sports suspension, we've got 105mm on the front, 140 on the rear, 1 for anti-roll, which of course is how it comes with the height adjustable sports suspension, 25 and 45 for the dampers, 2.05 for springs. As far as camber, 1 degree front and back. As far as the toe, that is as is. You've got some toe on the rear though, so that comes in handy. For the diff, as again it seems the theme is for this week for the most part, kind of just out of the box crate ready diff. 10, 30 and 20 already feels great as far as I'm concerned for this one, but give it a try and see what you think. For the ballast, the power adjustment, all of that is untouched. For the downforce, you do have control over that with the front and rear, but I've got it set, as you can see, on the minimum, which in the case of this one is none. That's down to you. If you want to increase the grip, of course you can increase that, but I view the aero on this one as a bit more of a visual thing, a visual nod to Forza, whereas back then, if I recall correctly, I don't think you could adjust the downforce anyway. It was hard to tell if it was giving you much in the way of downforce. I'm sure it gave you some, but like I said, that's up to you, and of course that will affect your point level. And then over here, we've got all the other stuff fitted. What few things we did fit on this one. So all that remains, as always, is to jump out to the track. And then, of course, I can show you what it will do in practice. Now, there is a bit of a difference when you compare this version to the Forza Horizon 5 version, which I did earlier on today. The downside to doing it in Forza is you don't have stuff like ballast and power restrictors. So you really have to choose carefully what parts you're going to fit to get it as close as possible. The trade-off to that is that obviously in Forza, they've got the actual do-luck parts. So you can perfectly recreate recreate the car, even down to the wheels, to make it look exactly like it used to, which is awesome. So it swings and roundabouts. In terms of how they compare in terms of physics, well, in Forza it's definitely more tail happy, at least in the form that I've built. It's very close to what it used to be as well in B class, like 675 points or so. In this game, obviously it's not a Gran Turismo legend, so you don't have the same kind of nostalgia attached to it, so you can kind of go into it not really expecting much and be pleasantly surprised. As you would assume, being a Supra, it's a beloved car anyway, it's pretty forgiving, and a Supra with 375 horses is never going to be a bad thing, so yeah, it's a good car. It has, much like in Forza, a bit of that tail-happy, kind of drift-ready nature to it, but you can definitely use that to your advantage. You can use that kind of loose back end occasionally to power slide through a corner, and it can help you out. Be aware of the understeer occasionally, but being aware of it is about as heavy as the advice would need to be. It's not like this is difficult to drive, by any means. It's a fun walk down memory lane. I've done a couple of these Forza-inspired replicas recently, and doubtless I'll probably do more in future as well, because it's fun to bring back these older memories, especially on cars which some of you might not otherwise use quite as often perhaps. So if you decide to use this one, or if you are in the members section and you check out the Forza Horizon 5 version and the Sparko Evo on Tuesday as well, then of course I hope you enjoy those, and of course stick around for another build later today, more tomorrow, and check out the ones from earlier this week as well. But for now, thanks for watching.